I just looked at a really good medicinal chemistry book last night. Let me see if I can find it for you. Perceptive is a big biopharma hedge fund. I don't have any specific relationship with them, but I consider them highly. I think Barron's wrote about them. They have very good, very good track record. Just like any other fund, they don't get it all right? I think they make plenty of mistakes too. But I haven't talked to them in years. It's probably been about 10 years. Let's see. I think it's this. No? Yes, okay. I was flipping through this last night because this is what I do for fun. You guys understand that? This is what I do for fun. Process that. This is what I do for fun. I read textbooks like this for fun. Do you understand me? That's my life. I don't have a degree in this field. I don't need a degree in this field. It's sort of a Chinese book, but it's very advanced. And they have a number of nice authors as well. But check out how the book is structured. I think this is beautiful. So this is Paxlovid. So it does a case study by case study. Yeah, it gives free energy. Let's go. He knows. Goes case study by case study, which I really like because you can learn. You can learn general principles, but there's nothing like looking at specific examples. And all these drugs are like blockbusters or new drugs. So this is 𝗕𝗏𝗰𝗸𝗃, which is most people just call Paxlovid, and it's got ritonavir as a booster. That's a protease inhibitor for COVID. We all know what it is. Probably a lot of people here took it. This is ritonavir, which is not the drug. This is an old drug, but this is 𝗕𝗏𝗃. And so how does it work? Why did they make it? Coronavirus pandemic began in 2019. A lot of people died. 20 years ago, SARS flared up. In order to discover drugs to treat SARS, Pfizer carried out a FRET-based substrate cleavage assay, and they identified this drug as a potent inhibitor of the protease for SARS-CoV-1. But since SARS petered out quickly, Pfizer never worried about the project. So take a look at this drug, 231, and you can see, the similarity here, and what would end up happening here is this prodrug, or protide. Sometimes people call this protide group. I've used this kind of chemistry quite a bit. In fact, if you look at my patents, they focus on this kind of chemistry. Yeah, we'll improve the TTS at some point. After the explosion of COVID, Pfizer prepared 231's phosphate prodrug, sometimes called a protide, as I mentioned, 814, in an effort to boost solubility. But 814 still lacked oral bioavailability and had to be given intravenously. That's not going to work for a protease inhibitor. Later on, Pfizer discontinued trials of 814 when their orally bioavailable inhibitors became promising. It got FDA approval. Japanese got a different drug approved, which is not a peptidomimetic and is orally bioavailable. So this is that drug. This isn't a peptidomimetic either, although there's an amine bond here. It's two amine bonds here, actually. So let's look at the pharmacology. It depends. Username, it depends. That's why this book is interesting to me. It's 400 pages of examples of medicinal chemistry, which is awesome. So here's a positive, we know what COVID is. It's a positive sense single-strand RNA virus. They got 11 ORFs, 30,000 nucleotides. The 5' end of the genome starts here, and here's protease, and here's another protease. So we want to make a protease inhibitor. What's that look like? All right. Proteases have been very tractable, actually. We all know that. ACE inhibitors are proteases, interestingly, are protease inhibitors. So that's a really good clue. Neuraminidase inhibitors have been around, and probably next to ACE inhibitors, DPP4 is also very popular, another protease. So HIV protease, of course, helped change the game for HIV, as well as Hep C. although hep C protease inhibitors weren't as useful as nucleotide inhibitors. So anyway, almost all protease inhibitors are transition state mimics. That's really important. So that makes them very potent when there's transition state mimics. I don't think it would take you more than a couple of years before you can understand this book if you worked really hard. Otherwise, 5-10 years. So, and that's if you had nothing else to do but work on chemistry for a few years. You could probably figure it out. All right, so they're transition state mimics. They're often peptidomimetics because if you're a transition state mimic, you have to sort of start with a peptide and change. So you try to truncate and depeptide the endogenous substrate. So whatever the main thing that the protease is supposed to be clipping, you try to sort of make a mimic of it. And usually that's a protein, of course, it's a protease. So you're trying to get the peptides that look a lot like the thing that the protease is trying to cleave. So it's not always the case, by the way, but you can make a protease inhibitor that's non-peptidomimetic, but that's another story. So here's what happened. Interestingly, the building blocks were borrowed from older protease inhibitors such as vildagliptin. This is Galvus from Novartis for type 2 diabetes. And then from hep C protease inhibitors, these never did well, by the way. 𝗕𝗃𝗄𝗏 was Schering-Plough's protease inhibitor for hep C. And this was a drug I followed really closely and used to talk to Schering-Plough's CEO and their management team about this quite a bit. Okay, so here's Vatotec, classic ACE inhibitor, one of the most popular drugs of all time. Saxagliptin, also one of the most popular drugs of all time, another protease inhibitor. Here's 𝗕𝗃𝗄𝗏, which I mentioned earlier. Got approval, never sold very much. And then here's 𝗫𝗓𝗃𝗓, which also didn't sell very much. You have two cysteine proteases. Wait, no. Yeah, I guess they're cysteine proteases. Combined proteolytic actions produce various shorter non-structural proteins, which are vital. So if you block this protein, you should be able to do well. 3CL-Pro is a 3-domain cysteine protease. It is a homodimer composed of 2 protomers that consist of 3 domains, 1, 2, and 3. The homodimer forms due to the interactions between the N-terminus of domain 1 and or the C-terminus of domain 3. Dimer is reversible and is stable when a substrate is bound. The catalytic dyad cis-145 and his-41, this is very important, is located in a cleft between domains 1 and 2. It would be nice to see a picture. There it is. Okay, so let's see what this picture is talking about. So here's the catalytic cleft. So this is a pocket. Cleft is sort of another word for that, but this pocket is what we're trying to sort of fill in here. So you see the cysteine and you see the histidine. The cysteine has that, you see that yellow, that's a sulfur. That's what's famous. That's a well-known. Cysteine is I think one of the only amino acids with a sulfur, if not the only one. So domains 1, 2, or domain 3 is just a cluster of helices. The protease is a highly conserved protease, and there's no homologous protein with similar cleavage. It's in humans, so this is a really good target. And of course, Paxlovid worked okay. Unlike the conventional serine or cysteine, histamine, aspartate, or glutamate triad found in other chymotrypsin-like enzymes, this is a catalytic dyad. And that catalyzes the hydrolysis of the peptide bond through a nucleophilic reaction, typical protease. And again, here's domain 1 and 3. You see this domain 1,3 bond here. That's what keeps that together. Okay. This is interesting. It says it was suggested that a water molecule might complete the catalytic triad by mediating crucial interactions between his-41 and other important conserved residues such as his-164. I don't know where 164 is, and aspartate 184 or 187. Okay, so here's kind of what we're talking about. So sometimes in chemistry you name these S1, S2, S1 prime, S2 prime, and we're going to try to figure out how to get into those binding sites. So let's look at this. This is nirmatrelvir, reversible covalent inhibitor. And because there's a cysteine there, we can actually make a covalent inhibitor.
Autofilled.
Hold on one second. Okay, so let's see if we can see the interactions here. We got a covalent bond happening here between the drug. This is the nitrile, I guess, that is bonding to, or I guess, you get an adduct, a Michael adduction reaction, I guess, here where the sulfur takes place in the nitrile. And that's now a covalent bond. It's literally part of the receptor. It is reversible. This will get detached as well, but that's a very strong bond. So let's look at the SAAR. And so anyway, this book is really nice because it kind of goes through a lot of the motifs in drug development. Here's a pyrrolidinone. There's a ketone here, so that's why it's a pyrrolidinone. Otherwise, it would be a pyrrolidine. And you have the lone pairs here that are attracting the histidines. You have this amino carboxyl reaction, or attraction, I should say. And that's, how they got all these optimized. And this is what chemistry is. They never did this. Cassava never did any of this stuff, by the way. Or they would have published it. They even do a little synthesis, which I don't love, but so anyway, here's and what I like about these is these are brand new drugs. Like all the drugs they review are like really modern drugs. So this is a really neat book. It's called Chemistry and Pharmacology of Drug Discovery. 𝗕𝗢𝗄𝗧 is the author. A lot of pharma guys write each different chapter by Wiley. They could have easily designed a trial that was just mild only. But I think the fact that they didn't is suggestive that they don't even believe their theory. Otherwise, why in the world would you do moderates too? You didn't have any. Right? Why? You're saying it's all about the milds, but when you do the phase 3 for all the marbles, you include the moderates. What's wrong with you? At least you can change the primary endpoint. So what would you rather have? A better chance of hitting the trial with less power,
Order cancelled,
or including the patients that are not going to have any result, any benefit in a bigger trial? I think you want the smaller trial with the mild. That's if you believe it. I don't know. Hello, Snoobla. You're going to have to ask a whole lot of people that. Michael Milken, Sam Waxel, 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, let's see. Yeah, just a couple of people like that. It's not the worst company I've seen. I've seen worse. I've seen worse, believe it or not. But they never get to this valuation, which is why it's such a nice gift. No, I'm not, Jake. I mean, the Sava paper has some details about that. I didn't even include some of the best parts of Cassava in the paper I wrote. There's some funny ones. The antibody they used to do the alpha-7 results was an alpha-1 antibody, which does not recognize alpha-7. Yeah. They just made it up. Source? I made it up. It's revealed to me in a dream. Yeah, alpha-1 and alpha-7 are different, and there's also my understanding, there's no nicotinic alpha receptor antibody that's appropriate for ELISA or Western blot. It's not a viable thing due to the pentameric chain. Doesn't need the right antibody to run a Western blot. Pretty sick. It just eyeballs it. BTC's actually cooled off $100, but it probably will. Hopefully it hits 100K. I don't know. It's a really speculative, kind of crazy asset. Oh, seriously though, bio investor, you gotta, and Schmeltz, you gotta answer my question. How old are you guys? 1. Okay. How old are you? 2. Have you ever looked at any other biotech stocks? And if so, which ones and what do you think of them? Because the way you can tell somebody doesn't know what they're doing is 1, they're young, and then 2, they have no clue about the industry other than the one stock they're looking at. But if you're new to biotech, I get it. When you're new, you can get confused as to what looks good and what doesn't. When I was new, I had no clue what I was doing. But tell me you're under 30.
𝗕𝗏𝗃𝗀𝗀.
Just tell me you're under 30. That's all I need to know. I was on the OG Forbes list when I first started, where there was only actually 30 people on it. Now they did like 30, 30, 30. It's like 900 people. No, I don't have the CFA. No, I'm in New York.
𝗕𝗏𝗃𝗀𝗀.
It's not perspective advisors, it's perceptive advisors. And of course I know them. They're one of the biggest healthcare firms in the world. I know all of them. I know Baker Brothers. I know 𝗵𝗵𝗆𝗀𝗃. I know there's not anybody who invests in healthcare that I don't know. I know RTW. I know Armistice. I know all the VCs. Come on. I know the big firms too. I know the guys at Fidelity. Who do you think I am? Welsh, they don't do Biopharma. They're mostly private equity, LBOs. Arnie was the Tiger guy. And didn't he pass away? He passed away. I mean, the drug either works or it doesn't. Everybody has to place their bets, but
Order cancelled.
you see how I'm placing my bet. Wayne is, I haven't seen or talked to Wayne in a long time, so I don't know him as well. He kind of always kept it to himself. Quiet guy out in Long Island. Oh boy, bio. Are you new to it? Are you new to the space? You ever run a drug company? What other drug stocks have you been in? Because you sound like brand new. That's a cope. Of course you're trying to look for efficacy in phase 2. What kind of copium is that? Uh-oh, Wiki. You can see efficacy in phase 1 too. Every trial you're trying to get a signal. Aspen, it was probably VTL when I wrote the 40-page paper on that. Look, people ask the same questions for every primary event. Something like that, Sizzle. We heard about it on Wall Street. There was a bunch of call buying that I don't think it worked, because now I think whatever that liquidity came from, I still think they're not out, if that makes sense. We heard that there was a big buyer of December calls, and we think it was a hedge on a short position, not an open long position. So they were short common, and they were buying calls to hedge, not to go long. Yeah, Chegg, let's go. Make sure you subscribe to 𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗏𝗃terminal.com. Yeah, I think even the Cassava shareholders are smart enough to know if there's literally no effect whatsoever on this trial, which I think that's what we're going to see, that the second one's not going to do anything. They're basically replica studies almost. Hume's worth like $1. It'd be funny if we got under 26.50, which was 2 days ago's price. Obviously the rally has been deleted, but it'd be even funnier if we're net down over the last 2 or 3 days. A lot of people probably got hurt buying or trying to squeeze at 30, 32. I don't feel bad for them because they're just getting into something that doesn't make sense for them to try to get into. At the right price. I mean, you could lighten up on Chegg now. It depends on how big your position is. I wouldn't have more than a 5% position on Chegg. It's risky. We don't know what's going to happen to Chegg exactly. Their revenue decline could be a soft landing, or it could be a really hard landing. We obviously want it to be a soft landing, but we don't know management. I don't know anything about Spirit Airlines other than never fly them. I flew them once. The plane had to make an emergency landing. I fired the person that booked me that airline. Yeah, they thought Daniel Jones was the future of the Giants organization.
Order partially filled.
It's over.
Order filled.
It's so over.
Order cancelled.
So over for him. Listen, when someone says the word market maker, it's hedge fund trying to take your money, to be clear. It's one of the best rebrandings ever. Are you a market maker? Market maker? Yeah, I'll make you a market. I'll buy the stock at $1 and sell it to you for $1 million. That's the market. We'll check with Andy. He might have a better market. And you'll buy it for $1.50 and sell it to you for $500,000 per share. Good luck. Madoff was a market maker when you needed market makers, the only people you could go through.
Order filled.
You had to go through market makers. There was no other choice. It was like not optional. Today, if you could trade electronically, but you're trading against all participants. The market maker, quote unquote, is just whoever trades the most. And the people trading the most are trying to take your money.
Order cancelled.
They're not trying to help you. It doesn't provide liquidity because you're only going to make a market that's beneficial to you. It makes me so happy, and we're not even close to even getting started. Once we really start rolling, you're going to see. I hope people will just throw away their Bloombergs and say, why bother? But, you know, we're not there yet. We're early days, and I appreciate your early support. It means a lot to me. You know, you're going to be able to say you're one of the first people on this platform 10 years from now, 20 years from now. You can say, yeah. I mean, I used Bloomberg in, let's see, 2000 was my first Bloomberg account, 24 years ago. But by then, it was already a standard on Wall Street. It's just the hedge fund industry was very small. So it's mostly banks using it. Bloomberg Terminal doesn't have a global chat with people's names. They anonymize your name. And that's only a recent feature for them. So it's really kind of trash, to be honest. But we're going to make some really cool stuff that they can't even dream of. $2,500 a month. So, you know, as we add more functionality and get closer to their functionality, our price has to go up too. But it will never reach $2,500 a month. But there will be some things that you could do on Godel that are like fee for service. So like you could probably rent GPUs from us and stuff like that. And